Welcome back to the podcast. As always, it's great to have you here. My name is Matthew Leffler. They go by the name the Armchair Attorney. But what I really want to talk to you about before we kick the podcast is to spend a minute and think about trailers. Look, trailers are what we all care about here. I love a good commercial trailer. Give me a 53-foot van with swing doors. I love it. Heck, want to put a roll-up door in there? I like that too. Temperature control is pretty neat, pretty cool. Give me a carrier or a Thermo King on top and we're looking real nice. What about chassis? What's a chassis if not a wonderful subframe with brakes, lights, and tires? All of these things are what make the country move. And I love to move. For over 15 years, I've been dancing around the supply chain, cutting my teeth in litigation, protecting trucking companies from liability. I help people maintain equipment, help people find equipment, procure it, maintain it, and ultimately get the most value out of that. But here's the thing that we don't talk about a lot in the industry. We don't talk a lot about parking. And why don't we talk about parking? Well, maybe parking's not as interesting as some of the stuff we talk about with big powered assets, tons and tons of freight, brokers putting trailers in front of doors. This is the thing that we got to think about. Because when the American Transportation Research Institute did their latest round of surveys, we learned a very interesting fact. Trucking companies, motor carriers, and drivers agree on a couple things. And one of those things they agree with is there's not enough parking. See, the way of moving freight is all about hours of service. You have a window to drive a certain amount of time, and when that time expires, you have to find a place to reset. And that typically is a parking facility. Now, that challenge is that shippers, enterprise shippers, really don't want to have you parking at their facilities. They'd prefer you to park somewhere else. And so when we talk about parking, it is not a problem that just faces truck drivers. They're the ones who experience it on the front lines every day. But the reality is, it impacts everything. From the ability for us to safely deliver freight on time, you have to have a place for a driver to safely stop and rest. If you don't have places for people to stop and rest, you get yourself into a very dangerous position of having unsafe drivers. At the end of the day, we want everyone to get what they need in the time frame they want it. But if we don't think about truck parking, and not just as logisticians, but people who really do care about getting stuff delivered, we have to start thinking about that now. So I reached out to my friend Evan Shelley to understand what is going on in the world of parking. If motor carriers and drivers and independent contractors and owner-operators can all agree that truck parking needs to be solved, what's happening to solve that problem? Are there enough spots for the truck drivers that are out there today? The answer is probably not. So without further ado, I'm so excited to bring in my very special guest, Evan Shelley. Evan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
I am so excited to talk to you because I have been following the issue of truck parking for a little bit. But before we get into that, who are you and what do you do?
So I'm Evan Shelley, co-founder and CEO of Truck Parking Club. We're like the Airbnb for truck parking. We take existing space and let business owners, property owners have and put it on our app, and truckers all across the U.S. in real time can book those spaces just like Airbnb.
That's interesting. So, what gave you the idea to start this? Like, when did you get into supply chain? How did you find your way into this field?
Yeah, so I don't have I was a former trucker type of background. I was a real estate guy that stumbled into a real estate deal, and from that deal I figured out that truck parking was a huge problem. And then over the course of 12 to 18 months, I started meeting people in the industry, talking with them. Is this a real problem? What's going on? Why is it a problem? And then figured out that really leveraging technology and existing space was really my route to making an impact.
Did you know coming in that you would be stuck in this industry for the rest of your life? Did anyone warn you about that?
I'm starting to learn that. Yeah, I'm starting to learn that now.
Okay, so you understood the problem. Like how pervasive is truck parking as a problem for the industry? I mean, I talked a little bit about the American Trucking Research Institute, but can you give us some idea like how broad and how deep this problem is?
Yeah, so there's statistics that are thrown around that I'm sure everyone has heard. One space for every 11 trucks, 600,000 space shortage, 50 minutes to find parking. Those are the pretty common things that are thrown around. But on a day-to-day basis, we see it. we see it. We talk with drivers every single day. Our customer care team talks with drivers every single day, and we get requests for new locations every day. And I would say it's very mercurial, right? Where you know, one day we see a ton of demand in the Northeast, and the next day we see a ton of demand in the Southeast. So it flows as freight does, right? Demand changes in certain parts of the country. So we're honestly constantly learning, and seeing these challenges appear in different parts of the United States.
So let me explain, like, how does the technology work? Are you like, how do you aggregate parking? Do you work with like, existing parking companies? Do you find people that haven't done it before and want to learn about? Like, how does that pathway work? How did you solve that for the real estate side of it?
Yeah, so our sweet spot is really taking existing business owners, such as trucking companies. We're at the NASDAQ, National Association of Small Trucking Companies, right now. We're meeting with small trucking companies that are not only looking for parking, but also have yards that maybe they have extra parking and they can
Mm.
offer it up. So we really talk with business owners, trucking companies, storage companies, real estate investors that have empty lots. That's really our core focus. But we also have existing truck parking operators and things of that nature that are in the business of truck parking. But we've really set up a platform to where really any business owner, any property owner that has extra space, they can add their location to our platform. It takes 10 to 15 minutes. We onboard you, we get you approved, and you can start getting bookings immediately.
So how does it work for like a driver? Is it an application they download and they can just find and search by location? Is that how that functions for the driver side of things?
Yeah, so our platform works well on web browser, but also mobile app with your iPhone or Android on the Google Play Store. It works for either or, because we understand that drivers, maybe it's a dispatcher in the office, maybe it's a driver on the road. We have a platform that works for both.
So how did you settle on the name, the Truck Parking Club? Like, I'm curious about like, what was the behind the scenes for that as well?
I wish I had a great story. I really do. I really do. I honestly do not have a great story. It's a matter of short conversations about what should we name this thing, and
Mhm.
and then we found something with a URL and we went with it, and we just went.
Well,
We
that's
didn't
like
really.
I did the same thing with the Armchair Attorney. It was like, first, is the domain available? Once I realized it was,
Exactly.
like, okay, I'll just get that thing. I'll make a
Yeah,
trademark and we'll go from there. Well, I look like
exactly.
so
Yeah.
I'm a third generation guy in this business, and my father, he had his own company after spending time at Roadway and Airborne, and the trend in the industry at the time was like outsourcing. So he's like, okay, I'll make the company, and he called it Outsource Fleet Services. So if you were looking to outsource fleet services, like, it was
Okay.
really easy to figure it out. So it's a very literal name that kind of describes what this experience is. It's a club. It's a collaborative effort to kind of solve a
Exactly.
problem that we know exists, and then you're be able to bring visibility and aggregation. How do you handle like insurance? Like, is that a thing you have to worry about? Like, property owners worrying about people coming in that they haven't vetted themselves, or how do you vet someone who's going to come in and use the platform?
Yeah, as an attorney, right? You
That's
straight to the
that's all I think
liability.
about. That's all I think about. That's all I think about.
No, it's great. It's great. It's a great question, that I don't get asked that often. So we have terms of service that you opt into when you create an account, right? And then we are insured, of course. That insurance covers, the company for any types of liability, and then the property owners, and business owners have insurance, and then the trucking companies have insurance as well. So all parties involved are insured. It is for us, and speaking on our business in particular, it's a sharing economy insurance, which is a bit niche, but
Mhm.
so we had to work with insurers to create a something that worked for our business. But no, everyone, all stakeholders in the transaction are insured.
Yeah, that's the question I always think about. 'Kay, in my line of work, the worst case scenario is the inevitability, and so the inevitability is, okay. Now we're going to ask those
Yeah.
kind of questions.
Yep.
For a truck driver, like, what is the average use? They do it for like every time they stay somewhere. Is it like a thing they use just in case they can't find something? Like, how many locations do you guys have in the platform today?
Yeah. So what we say is, we want to be a tool and a tool belt for a driver. So use us when you need us. And what we find is, once a driver finds out about us and uses us, they continue to use us, because we're we're I would say obsessive about creating a great customer experience. And if you have any issues with your experience with Truck Parking Club, we have a 24/7 customer care team made up of former drivers
Mm,
that will work with you and take care of you, whatever the situation is. So we're very hyper obsessive, maniacal, whatever you want to call it, about making sure that the customer has a great experience. I can't. Oh, and then you ask about locations. As of today, I believe it's 177.
nice.
We typically add new locations every day at this point.
So if someone wants to become like a provider of parking services, they just go to the website or they go to the app and they can set themselves up that way. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, yeah, you go right to the platform. There's a big button that says become a property member. Click that button. It'll walk you through the steps of uploading all the information for your location. And then one of our property intake team will give you a call and talk with you about your property. Make sure it's a good fit for Truck Parking Club. We thoroughly vet every location.
Let's say like I want to know like how do I get paid, right? So I imagine the payment happens within the application, or is it done separately? How do if I'm an owner and I put my property up there to get used for your team, how do I make money in this?
Yeah, of course. It's fully automated through Stripe. We use
Okay.
Stripe as our payment processor. It's pretty common for a tech company to use Stripe. So fully automated payment comes in. We get our cut. Property owner gets their cut. Automated through our payment processor, Stripe.
Okay, well, now I'm with a leasing company. We have about 18,000 pieces of equipment. We have massive needs for people for storage and placement of our assets. Is there long term opportunities with the parking, or is it more short term driven? Like, is there like an enterprise long term kind of thing available?
Yeah, so we have hourly, daily, weekly, and monthly options.
Okay.
Some locations do all four. Some locations only do hourly. Some locations only do monthly. So it really is going to be a location by location basis. But we have a lot of locations that we have a lot of monthly parkers at that use Truck Parking Club to book their monthly parking, which would be the long term parking.
What about like let's say I'm an owner of real estate and I have like maintenance capabilities on site. Can I sell those services or market those services on your platform as well, or is it really just the real estate itself and the other ancillary things would be something separate?
Yeah, so we will let you talk about your
Okay.
like let's say for example a repair shop. That's a really common property member for us is a truck repair shop. So
Mhm.
they can advertise those services through amenities on our site. We don't sell advertising. It's just free advertising for that business. We also don't book that advertising or sorry, book that repair through Truck Parking Club. We're just hyper focused on
Yeah.
truck parking.
Well, that was like, well, I had a facility, my father's company, we had a facility in Bedford Park. It was like 5 acres, 58,000 square foot repair facility, but we would have people park too. And like, I had no technology to say, like, hey, here's the place you can park. It's nice that like the problems we have in the business aren't like new. These have been around for decades. It's just the technology to solve them seems to be what's improving. Did you think you were going to become a technologist, like real estate background? You see a problem and now you're going to be a team of
Yeah.
developers and all this other stuff. Is that was a transition you were anticipating?
It was not anticipated, no. I just had to figure it out, right? I created the first platform myself. I did a low code, no code, and
Hmm.
I put it out there to the world, and someone started using it, and it was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, and then from there, once we got that proof of concept, brought we have a full team in house, some real professionals that are drive the whole thing. We have an awesome CTO
Nice.
that runs really all the tech side of it. We don't really talk about tech all that much, but we have a very strong tech team.
Well, that's the thing is like the technology is the experience that guides them through what you actually have built inside of your mind, like how the mousetrap should function better, essentially making a frictionless process for someone to find parking as opposed to hopping on Google, making a bunch of phone calls. Like it solves
Yep,
that.
yep.
When did you start the company? What year was that?
It was actually last year.
It was
It
last
was
year.
actually last year. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're assigned. Like, okay, what were you doing? You were doing real estate before you jumped into this last year.
Yeah, yeah. So I really quit pursuing real estate deals last year, and just went, 110%
Wow,
in on this. So we're coming in on a year.
that's
So
incredible.
yeah,
How big is your team now that you have?
we're 8 people.
Oh,
Eight
that's
people
amazing.
currently. Yeah, I got a couple of the guys here with me today at this show. I try to go to all the shows. We got our tech team, our customer care team. We have our guys that do shows, property intake, things of that nature.
That's amazing. So not only did you get into supply chain, not realizing that it's a lifetime commitment, and it's actually for many people it's a generational commitment. So just so you know, but you start a company during the pandemic when everything is bonkers. What were you thinking? Like, how do you have that type of risk tolerance for that kind of a move?
Y- Yeah, so that's a great question, right? Like I don't get asked that often. So um, my my background, I actually haven't taken a W-2 or a salary since like 2018. I've always just been doing my thing
There you go.
with real estate for a long time now, and was doing that. So I learned to think about risk a little bit differently, and I've never well, since 2018, depended on a paycheck. So you got to figure it out, right? You always
Yeah,
have to figure it
that's
out,
right.
and your risk tolerance. The way I thought about risk in 2018 or 2017 was much different than how I think about it now, and the preparedness and understanding the downsides of taking on big risk, and understanding that what happens if that edge case happens. Are you prepared for that? I'm sure as an attorney, you know all about that. So um,
All I think
that's
about
how
are
I
worst
think.
case scenarios. That's all I think
Exactly.
about.
Exactly. Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, I mean, I have 4 children, so, like, I look at this and go like, "Okay, it seems really compelling to start something from scratch and to build it and to bootstrap it and all the risk and chaos around it." That's not my appetite, man. I don't have the appetite for that. That is terrifying. Do you have a family that's important? Do you have, like, kids you have to deal with, or you're able to handle this without having to worry about those things?
Yeah, so I would say I am, I do not have a family, wife or kids at this point. So
That
I
explains your risk tolerance.
exact
You're still immortal in your mind.
yeah, exactly. So I'm in a little bit different position than a lot of people. So I can take those risks, and it ends up affecting myself. That I don't have 4 kids.
Yeah,
So
I still have to remind myself because the twins are turning 1 year old in,
awesome.
oh my gosh, 2 weeks. 2 weeks, they're going to be a year old. It's
Yeah.
absolutely bonkers. It goes quick. So as I was struggling to sleep at night, you were bootstrapping a company and you've grown it at this remarkable pace. Like, what are you like most excited for 2024? Because 2023 seems to be a really weird year from everything that I've seen so far.
It's super interesting, right? With the all the headlines and some of these large venture-backed companies going out of business. It's pretty wild to see. Um, so honestly, we're all about focus.
Yeah.
So we are Truck Parking Club. Our North Star mission statement is Truck Parking Club helps truckers save time and fuel by efficiently finding and reserving truck parking across the U.S. So everything we do has to fit into that
Mm,
bucket. So what does that mean, right? We work very hard to get more truck parking locations, like some of the locations we just talked about, and we work very hard to bring awareness to what we're doing and awareness to the truck parking issue, and getting truckers to experience our platform. And honestly, anything outside of that we may consider, but we say no a lot to pursuing other things. So we're just hyper focused on that.
So as you talk about the hyper focus, now there are big like travel centers out there that are, BP buys TA, Loves is privately held, Pilot
Yeah,
Flying J owned by Berkshire. So these are massive companies that focus to an extent on what you focus on too.
yeah.
Do they look at you as a competitor, or do you see them as a potential partner that you can help facilitate more to their locations?
Yeah, another great question. The so TA's here at this show actually
Yeah.
right now, and we were talking with their team, and they do paid parking now, but we were talking about how we could work together. And one of the things that we talked about was, well, we have people that want to drop a trailer for a week. We don't do that.
Mhm.
And they're like, we could just start referring, you guys, if they need to go drop a trailer, or if our, inevitably our facility is full. We could just refer over that business if you guys aren't full. So I honestly think we're a tack on for a company like a TA or a Pilot. We have a lot of locations just
Yeah.
next door to those locations. So I think we provide something a little bit different. Our average booking is actually 2 to 3 days,
Okay.
um, where companies like yours go in and may drop a trailer for a couple days, 2 or 3 days. We have a lot of trailer repositions. We have a lot of drop and
Yeah.
hooks. Owner operators running different loads and leaving a trailer at our facility. So we're not as direct of a competitor as you would imagine to those guys. They've got overnight covered,
Mhm.
and we're I think we're a good complement to what they offer.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I look at this like there's four mega trends that I see in this industry, and it's about we call it ACEs, but it's that autonomous vehicles, connected systems. So eventually sharing connectivity between maybe you and TA, for an example, or sharing telematic information. Electrification, we know about the desire to get away from diesel to an extent, and then the sharing economy. And really, it seems like you guys play really well in this idea of sharing resources. So there's people who have things that they're not making productive, and there's somebody else who has a need for something that they currently haven't. Before I think the advent of technology like what you've put together, you really couldn't do anything with it. You'd have to like know somebody who could say, "Oh yeah, such and such has the ability to help you with the parking." So this idea, it seems like you guys are really focused on these trends, and it leads me to this question, which I'm going to take you outside of your comfort zone because that's what I do.
Sure.
So parking is so interesting to me because this is where we have, a trucking company or trucker reset, and we know this idea of automation, scratching and clawing and coming forward. And I look at companies like Baton, which were autonomous drop yards, for lack of a better word, get picked up by Ryder. I look at what you're doing and I see the building blocks of a network for autonomous trucks. Like, have you thought about that? Is that a thing that you think about as you build out your technology, or is it really again like narrow focus on what we're doing today, let 5 years or 10 years or whatever it might be, wait for that time period?
Yeah, another great question. You've got awesome questions. The
I
so
appreciate that. That'll be the tagline of the episode. Besides, will there
yeah,
be
awesome
parking?
questions. Uh, so how we think about it, and we get approached by not as many autonomous companies, but we get approached by a lot of EV companies
Mm,
wanting to partner. And how we think about it to date is, if we do our job of creating as many locations as possible across the US and creating strong relationships with our customers and a platform that people know and trust, I think things like autonomous and EV will just be a natural progression for our
yeah.
business, in being a resource to those companies. I think it'll just be a natural progression. So as long as, I think it's, as long as we focus on the main goal, ultimately, things like autonomous, I think will naturally blend into what we
Yeah.
do.
I totally agree. As you described, like the kind of ancillary services a real estate owner can have, like having the ability to filter and say, do you have charging for this? Do you have these things? Those filters become just another part of the flywheel that you're building. So as long as you deliver the value of the property is what you expect it to be, and the driver gets what they anticipate they're going to get, everything kind of goes well. What happens if like it doesn't go well? What happens if the property owner says, "Oh, I have 10 acres, it's concrete reinforced," and you get there, and it's a summer day, it's asphalt, the trailer sinks in. Like, how
Yeah.
do you reconcile with like the times when it doesn't match the expectation?
Yeah, no, that another great question. That so we have a great customer service team that
Mm,
when those things happen, because they do happen. There's, being in this business, those things do happen. It is addressing the situation quickly, making sure that the customers are taken care of, and the issue is resolved as quickly as possible. Whether it's a trailer that is sinking, a truck, issue with a truck at a location, those things happen,
yeah.
and it is about addressing the situation as quickly as possible and taking care of it as quickly as possible. They're because these things do happen, and
Yeah.
it is just taking it in stride, and I think at the end of the day, especially around trucking companies, especially around smaller trucking companies, I would say customer service is highly lacking, and we try to do the
Mhm.
opposite of that and take care of those situations as they happen. But we do everything we can to avoid them, right?
Yeah, of course,
But
of
you can't
course.
avoid all of them all the time.
Well, let me. What about on the driver's side, right? So, like, I love drivers. Let me be very clear. The hardest job in this country is safely delivering freight on time and undamaged. Truck driving is the most common job for high school educated men in all 50 states. It is a
Wow.
very important job, and it is one of the most dangerous jobs. Top seven most dangerous jobs in the country is driving a truck. They can be messy. Like, what happens when a driver does? So that's my qualification saying I love truck drivers. And then the transition is what happens when the driver makes a mess or breaks something? How
Yeah.
does the same kind of pathway handle for the property owner?
Yeah, it's super interesting. I was on What the Truck a few weeks ago, and I think Dooner might have asked me the question, like, what do you do when a trucker leaves a mess at a location? And our answer to that kind of ended up, people questioned it and thought I was making it up. But to date, we have had zero trash complaints at
That's
any
awesome.
location over thousands and thousands of bookings. Zero. I'm surprised. It'll happen. We'll get the
Yeah.
call. We'll get the call. But I am, I'm happy that it has progressed this way, and we don't get complaints.
Yeah.
It's,
What at the same point, I think like the Airbnb model is really useful here because it could be the case where you could have policies in place that say, hey, if you make a mess, you're gonna have to pay X amount of dollars, and the driver can agree to that if the proper documents that, like, to your point, like, it hasn't happened yet. It will happen inevitably. It must happen, and
yeah.
you already have the infrastructure to kind of solve it. Is there a rating system? Like, can people rate the quality of the places they go to?
Yeah, so every single location has a review system, and every single driver has a review system.
Ah, I like that
So
double-sided.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so it's a community, and there's accountability and guidelines, and we strive to have everyone follow them, and honestly, I think the standards that we bring to how we treat our members, um, I think actually resonates within the entire experience from the time a trucker books to the time a property member joins the platform. They see our culture and how we treat our
Mhm.
customers and how we take care of our customers. And I think, to be honest, I think that has a role in the fact that we've had no complaints with trash, very few just or random one-off events. So I think it is a level of standard that we hold ourselves to, and we'll continue to do that.
Well, okay, so now I want to segue, and that makes total sense. I mean, ultimately, we want everyone to have a good experience, and we know at scale things break and bind, and that just gives you a
Yeah.
chance to improve.
Yes.
As we think about improvement, like, so, software is interesting. It's a front end, the thing that we touch and we see and we experience, and then there's the back end of all the things, all the whistles, all the machinery. Um, as you think about partners, like, do you look at technology companies? Like I think of like someone like Trimble, so TMT, TMW, massive fleets utilize this stuff. Like, is there pathways for you to share data through your platform to others and say, hey, here's where you can find parking so they can still live in their own systems, like the dispatchers or folks? Or is it really come to your UI, do the business there, and then go back to the systems that they're working with?
Yeah. Awesome question. um,
I love this space, man. I love what you do. I love what you
yeah,
do.
this is awesome. So we talk with those companies a lot.
Mhm.
We have not we have no formal partnerships with any of them to date. Numerous conversations.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out how we maintain customer experience, the UI UX, customer service, that everything flows efficiently from someone else's system. That's honestly the reason that we haven't had any formal partnerships to date with someone like a Trimble or a Garmin or a Here Technologies or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
I just
yeah,
look at this and go like, this is an amazing tuck away or a value add for someone like Trimble and Trimble Maps to be able to take the data that they have and seamlessly flow that to someone like you who can help their customers use these things. For the smaller fleets, like their systems that they use are far more eclectic. So I don't really know a ton about like Emotive now. It used to be Keep Trucking, all those folks. But like I look at this, like clearly your mind is understanding like your ability to share data. I'm sure you build the software in such a way that data can be peeled and pushed and moved in different places. So it's modular. I just look at
Yeah.
this and go like, you've taken a problem that is one of the most pervasive in the industry, which it is. Like it is, truck parking is a massive problem. We as the industry kind of don't care. I mean, because we're like, that's the driver's problem. Like our problem
Yeah.
isn't what the drivers experience. But when you get, motor carriers and drivers all chiming and singing the same hymn book, you have the government, DOT, coming out and talking about this. You were in the right place at the right time. Did you do a lot of research coming in to say, okay, this is the place I want to play? Or did you kind of just like feel the problem and go, well, we can make a solution for that, not necessarily realizing how
Yeah.
massive that issue is?
Yeah, I to be honest, it was just like I said, a real estate deal that I was doing
That's
back in like
amazing.
2021, and I saw it was an issue. And I just saw this crazy supply demand imbalance, and it got me curious. It honestly was just curiosity, and then I went and started talking to some thought leaders in the space, and just randomly going to conferences
Hmm.
and just talking to people. And I figured out that no, no one was thinking outside the box with it, and leveraging existing space. I mean, for the first 6 to 12 months of me talking with people, it didn't click to me. It didn't,
Mm.
like, I was thinking I was just going to go develop a bunch of truck parking as a real estate guy. But then
Yeah.
I finally realized, like, oh, there's existing space, use technology, leverage the existing space, you create new truck parking instantly.
Yeah.
No development needed, no traditional real estate development needed. I mean, we added, I think yesterday, like 100 new spaces that was never publicly available. I mean,
Wow.
to build 100 spaces is millions of dollars and 24 months of development from start to finish. So, um, it, it's just a different way of looking at it that I kind of had to kind of mold my brain into being a real estate guy, because being a real estate guy, I want to touch it and feel it and build it and say I built that, right? And
Hmm.
now it's a technology thing where it's a little bit different, but I think for us, we thought it was the best way to approach the problem.
I love this. So like, so you identify the problem kind of by happenstance. You built a solution that people liked. You realized you could scale it, but scale comes with a whole other can of worms. Do you have equity partners, VC partners, or are you self-funded? Like, how do you explore that stuff? If you can talk about that.
Oh, sure, absolutely, yeah. So um, we are self-funded to date,
Oh,
as
that's
of
that's
as of
amazing.
today. Yeah, real estate was good to me, and was able to self-fund. I have a couple guys that work in the company that put in some minority amounts as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, just self-funded to date. But over the last 6 months or so, we've started talking with a lot of VCs, private investors,
Yeah.
other companies in the space that are interested in investing, and after, I guess at this point, hundreds of conversations, we started to narrow it down to
Good. Good for
a
you.
select group of people that we feel very comfortable working with. And then, I'm sure that when it all comes together, we'll probably do some type of announcement.
We'll have you back on the podcast then.
Yeah.
I again, like I look at this and you did everything right at the right time, solving the right problem. And the fact that the VCs are clamoring, it's because they see the vision that you see. Now you've realized, I think, that you could only own so many pieces of real estate before it becomes a whole other capital expense you can't deal with. But with your technology, you can solve the problem, collect the brokerage fee, for lack of a better word, and still solve the problem at the scale you want to solve it. Because again, this is one of the biggest problems we all agree with. Like we all have big problems, but very few people agree what those problems are. This is one of those ones where it's not controversial. It's a known quantity that needs to be solved. Do you think you're going to raise money next year? Or is it more like we're going to just take the calls and continue that conversation and go from there?
I think I think it is highly likely we will close out a raise before the end of the year.
I'm
Yeah.
excited
Yeah.
for that. So you're in due diligence now. You're
Yeah,
in the
I just can't talk too much about
Of
it.
course you can. We have all
Yeah.
these things. And we're at 34 minutes. People have made it this far. They're going to be like, oh, I missed out on the opportunity. I'm telling you, man, like the companies that care about what you do are more than just the motor carriers and the brokers and the drivers. The payment factoring companies, they care deeply about what you do. Any of the ancillary services, if I'm a shop that has the ability to allocate parking, like that's just another way for me to market what I do. So
Yeah.
you're building a platform, and a platform gives you so much movement and latitude to do the kind of things you want to do. So it's just a fascinating kind of combination of all these things put together that makes this a really cool company.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, as we were kind of talking about earlier, I think we're going to stay focused on what we do, and ultimately we will have these other verticals that we can start to pursue in the future. As
Mhm.
we execute on our goal, those other avenues will become very obvious, that those are verticals we need to pursue. But in the meantime, we're just trying to make sure that our customers, which we call our members, have an
Yeah.
awesome experience.
Absolutely. Well, I can see that again. I want to just like build off of it and think like 5, 10 years in the future. And I look at it and
Yeah.
say, like, all these other, the tire companies would love to talk with you because the tire companies want to go sell and install tires. And if they can go to these sites where they know there's trucks sitting there or customers there, I mean,
Yeah.
there's no limit to what like a Bridgestone or a Goodyear or Michelin would want to do when it comes to working with someone like you. So I just look at this and like, you can be the fulcrum for so many things. And as long as you keep that flywheel of people who are real estate owners who like using your platform, drivers who like to find parking there, you're the sky's the limit where you can go.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we have at this point we have a loyal following, and we just want to grow on that following, and then hopefully we can continue to provide them resources, like you mentioned, whether it's tires or repair or whatever, be able to help them with those things as we start to grow out other verticals.
How do you look at telematics? How do you look at like GPS tracking? How does that view in your world?
So um there's some interesting stuff that we're looking at with that, because I think, I mean, as you know, it plays in pretty well, right, with
It does
okay.
really well, really,
Yeah,
really
so
well.
we've talked with some of those companies, and we are trying to figure out how does Truck Parking Club insert into the kind of the telematics field, and how do we work with those companies to be a resource and leverage their technology to give our customers a better experience. So it's something we're looking at. Nothing to I don't have any great insights or anything at this point.
I'm gonna throw my random thoughts as a lawyer who loves supply chain. I'll throw my here's my roadmap for you. Um, if I'm an enterprise if I'm a real estate company using your platform to find potential people to come use my space, I'd like to know where they are. Like, how soon will they be here? And that pizza tracker of consuming telematics information could be really helpful for me to know when the booking is going to arrive, so I'm ready to receive that driver. If there's a gate that needs to be opened, I can see this stuff. That could be a simple thing with like Four Kites or Project 44 in some cases. I could see Highway being interested in something like this because as an owner of real estate, what I want to know is who's coming and when are they going to be here. And the best proxy is the cell phone. So your app probably communicates stuff back and forth, but so does the truck and the trailer too. Like, oh my gosh, Evan, there's so many things that I would do with telematics in the parking space.
We're looking at it.
Billing. Yeah,
We're
billing could be another thing. How long is it there? This is
Yeah,
hmm.
we're definitely looking at it. I think there is something to it. It's just nothing that we're integrating any.
Yeah.
It's not in like the version of our roadmap, but it is definitely something that we are looking at and consciously thinking about. And to your point, we currently show and report to the property owners when the truck's going to be there.
Okay.
exact it, right? It will be like, oh no, they're 30 minutes away. They said they're going to be here at 4. They're going to be here at 4:05,
Hmm.
or whatever the case may be, right? So it's just leveraging technology to be with that data, and I think, I mean, there's a world of things that we could do
Yeah.
on top of that. Yeah.
Do you see yourself ever occupying one or the other side of the market yourself, like with your own facilities, your own truck parking club facilities, or you're probably not going to open up a drive, be an MC. You probably don't want that, but have you thought about that?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it is something we considered at the very beginning. And then as we
Hmm.
grew the business, we learned about the business and realized that we need to be an unbiased third party.
Absolutely.
So we don't need to be competing against our customers. I think a decent analogy is like hotels.com competing with Marriott, right? Like it's a tough relationship.
Hmm.
If you were to do that, it disincentivizes your users to not use you if you're competing against them. So from the property side, we will not be in that game. I think what we will do is we will have an office that will have a couple spaces, 1 to 10 spaces where we'll have parking for our drivers, and they'll be able to park there, and we get to meet with our customers. That is something we will do, but it will be a small facility, and we're not competing against our customers. We're just creating an experience and getting to meet with our trucker members. So that's really as far as we'll ever delve into something like that.
That makes sense. Do you think like, well, what has surprised you the most about this business? Like the fact, like now you're a year in, you should have a pretty good understanding of how ridiculous supply chain is. But has anything really surprised you or stuck out to you so far?
Um, I mean, just talking from like getting the business going, marketplaces are just insanely difficult to get that flywheel going.
That's
I
right.
mean, that first booking, I remember it like it was yesterday, and it was like, this is amazing. But then you get one, you get 10, you get 100, you still don't have that flywheel going.
Yeah.
Um, and you're just scratching for every new booking, every new
Yeah.
property, and you're constantly talking to people that have no idea what you're talking about. And eventually you get through what you call like a Death Valley phase, and you get to the other side of it, and now we get to go to shows and stuff and talk with people, and they've heard of us before, they've
Yeah.
used us before, they're telling their friends. And I would just say what I learned is it was just incredibly difficult to get through that kind of Death Valley period and get the flywheel going. I mean, not only just from a customer standpoint. I mean, fortunately, we maintained customer experience through that period and gave them an experience that they continue to come back for. But from the technology side, it was getting the technology right. It is extremely difficult to get that through that period. And it's um, if I knew how difficult it was, I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't. We'll say that, right?
There you go.
Yeah, yeah. We'll say I'm glad I underestimated how hard it was, and that was probably a good thing because I did it anyway, or I did it, and then as far as like things we've learned, I mean, it's a daily basis, man.
Mm.
Of like, what does your customer actually want?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we're in truck parking, but what does the customer actually want? Um, is the parking the problem, or is it the time wasted to find the parking when they should be worried about something else, working on
Yeah.
something else? Is it really just the time? Or I think we're actually just giving them back time,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
And focus on actually the more important parts of their business. So I think constantly observing what our customer wants, where we learn every single day.
Do you think you're gonna like what shows that you've gone to you found the most useful? Have you been to like the ATA's Technology and Maintenance Council at this point? Or what places have you been the most interested in going to?
Yeah, so we were at I went just myself to the ATA event a few weeks ago in
Okay.
Austin. That was a good event. Um, Honestly, we try to go to all of them. So we're at in Nashville at the National Association of Small Trucking Companies show.
Mhm.
It's a smaller show, but it's a lot of customers that we met a lot of people that have these small trucking companies or owner operators that it's awesome to connect with. But we do the really big shows like Mid America Trucking Show. If
Absolutely.
anybody's anyone in the business, that's the show. You got to go. You got to go to that show. I mean,
Yeah.
it's phenomenal. It's huge. There's tens of thousands of people. You won't understand it until you go and you see it with your own eyes because it's just rooms and rooms of hundreds and hundreds of vendors and tens of thousands of people.
That's
It's
incredible.
pretty
That's
incredible. Yeah.
incredible. All right, well, we're getting close on time here. I'm kind of curious as we kind of look to wrap up. Um, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's like, I think I want to make a company? Because it seems like you have some experience in this. Like, what kind of
Yeah.
advice would you give to an entrepreneur who wants to take that plunge?
Yeah. One thing I would say I see it a lot is and I have to remind myself, and I think I've said it a few times on this call, it's just focus.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people want to put one foot in, one foot out. I mean, it depends on what your business is, but if you're saying, I'm going to go start this company, and it's going to do this thing, and I want it to be successful, and it's going to make this impact, it's got to be 100% of your time.
Mm,
I just don't see it any other way. And I think how people get lost and they lose years is, "Oh, I'm going to do this 50% of the time,
yeah.
and then 5 years goes by and you're still doing it 50% of the time, and you've gotten 5% of the way that you want to get. And I would just say go all in on whatever that thing is. Now, if I had another hour, I would go into more context on that.
Yeah.
But because let's not, if you're starting a business selling trash bags, like maybe like not, it's got to be something that is sustainable and
Yeah.
and and actually put some thought into it before you go all in on it. But um, you gotta be you gotta be dedicated to it. And um, I mean, there's just no there's it's kind of sexy to talk about and post on social media about, right? Like hard work,
Yeah.
but the hard work actually happens when it's real quiet and no one's
Yeah.
watching you.
When it's like 10 o'clock at night and you're going
Yes.
through notes or emails or reviews, whatever that looks like.
Exactly. Exactly. Those are the moments when you're getting the stuff done that is actually going to move the business forward. Posting about, I worked 15 hours yesterday and uh, didn't eat, didn't sleep, whatever. Like that's cool, but
It gets
uh,
engagements as far as
it
I can
does get
imagine.
engagement. It does get engagement. But I would say it's the quiet stuff. It's the
Yeah.
boring stuff. It's the chores. I say to my guys, like, Hunter, one of our guys on the team will call me. I say, yeah, I'm just doing the chores, man. Just doing the
Yeah.
chores. I'm
That's
doing the
right.
stuff that's got to get done to make sure the business moves forward. And it's the boring stuff, and there's nothing sexy about it. So just, if someone's starting a business out there, just get used to it because
Yeah.
that is it. It's the stuff that no one talks about.
It's
That's
it's
gonna,
making the payroll, paying the insurance premiums, making sure that
yeah,
all of the compliance documentations are in place. The financial people have the things you're supposed to get to them. What are you
exactly.
most excited about coming up?
Um, Honestly, man, like shows like this are awesome. Like the one we're at right now, just meeting with customers, continuing to get the word out there. Continuing to have a great experience for the customer, continue improving the app
Mhm.
to give our customers an even better experience. And every single new location, I get excited to see it show up. My team will tell me about it. I'm like, awesome, we got another one. Um,
Are
yeah.
there states that you're needing capacity now on the parking side? Like, where are the places that you have the biggest needs?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Northern California, we're
Mm,
sparse in that area. Would love to have more stuff in Northern California. Oregon, we don't have anything in Oregon. Kills me to even think about that. Like we don't
interesting.
have anything. We have
I'll change
177
that.
locations.
After we're done here. Give me once this thing gets posted in the podcast thing. I'll find you some people. I got some friends
Awesome.
up there.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate that. So, Parking is a huge problem in like Northern California, and we don't have
Yeah.
anything yet there. So would love to have more there. We only have like 4 locations in Florida. We want a lot more. We
Yeah.
need a lot more. We need a few hundred in Florida. So getting more there would be great. Um, we've got a decent amount like in that New York City type
Yeah.
area. Got some a couple really good locations there, but would love to have more in that Northeast. So um, yeah, I mean, but to be honest, so 177 locations, but our goal is to get to 5 to 10,000. So
Yeah. There you go.
we're 1% of the way there, really. Just keeping our head down, doing the chores, keep pushing the business forward.
Absolutely. Well, Evan, it has been an absolute pleasure getting to know you. We went through social media on the Twitter and the LinkedIn. Uh, I think what you're making is incredible. I think that the tailwinds behind you are going to be so substantial that you're not even going to realize, like in 3 or 4 years, how far you've gone. Because I think you've scratched this itch that has been in the industry for a very long time, and you're very tactical and intentional with what you're doing. And I can't wait to see you just dominate this thing. Where are you going to be next? So you have this show this week. Are you going to F3? Where else are you going to be?
Yeah, we'll be at F3. We have a booth at F3 as well.
Oh, there you
So
go.
we'll go 2 miles or 2 hours down the road. I actually just moved to Chattanooga, so it's in my backyard.
Oh, there you
Um,
go. That's where all the
yeah,
tech guys go. Oh, there's some great VCs there too. That makes sense.
yeah, and I mean, we're both pretty active on social, and like, there's going to be a lot of good guys there,
Yeah,
guys and gals, and it'll be cool to see everybody in the same place. And you'll be
absolutely.
there, right? Are you?
Uh, I
Oh no,
I kind of want to go. It's with 2 young kids, man. Like it is brutal. It is
understood,
brutal for my wife when I
understood.
travel.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I
I
get
have
it.
been on the fence on F3. At this stage, I am not planning on attending. I
Oh
know
man.
there are people who really want me to go, but
We'll
maybe someday.
we'll take a picture of you and hang it up and make a post or something, and we'll say Matthew's here.
I'll just scream about non-competition agreements and paying your employees when they're actually supposed to be non-exempt. Yes, I have lots of
Awesome.
friends in that neck of the woods. But
Oh my
Evan,
goodness.
dude, it's been a great pleasure getting to know you. Good to talk to you.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing amazing things for you and your company, and I can't wait to see what the next few years look like as you dominate this category, because I think it's a lot of innovation that we need, and you're doing the right stuff.
Hey, this has been an awesome show. Like, awesome questions. Wow. Like, you really had me thinking, and like, props to you, man. That it's been a really great show, and thanks so much for having me on. And we're just gonna keep pushing.
I appreciate it, man. And those are very kind words. Like I said, I spent my entire career thinking about the supply chain, and this problem is so vast and so all encompassing that everything from driver retention to recruitment to everything that we talk about with just in time fulfillment, it all is predicated on safe parking. It is all predicated on safe parking. Not everybody can be an LTL day cab driver who goes home every night. A lot of people can't do that. And when you're talking about somebody, a man or a woman who's gone from their home for 200 nights or more a year, finding safe parking is not a nice to have, it's a must have. So like I think about this stuff because it could be my father or my kids that are driving looking for safe parking, and if there's not a lot of people who are thoughtful trying to solve it, it doesn't get solved. So I appreciate the kind words, but dude, what you're doing is amazing. And I know that the VCs who are talking with you now, or the ones who are like, I missed out, like that's what there's gonna be people who listen to this and go like, oh no. But the reality is this is the way tech works. There'll be other rounds as time goes on. But Evan, like, congratulations, man. You've built something amazing. And I cannot wait to watch you dominate this stuff.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much for having me, Matthew.
You're my pleasure. You have to go. So I'm going to kick you out of here. We're going to say goodbye to everybody. Look, I got to hit the buttons. I got to make the music play. I think it's this one. Is it this one? No, it's this one. Here it goes. Huh. Look at that. Today's broadcast is brought to you by Contract Leasing Corporation. Contract Leasing Corporation. We lease trailers to people for money. We have about 18,000. We'd like to get more. If you need trailers or want to talk about trailers, give me a call. Evan's still here, so he's gone now. I was going to talk to him, but he's gone. It's all over. Everyone, thank you as always for joining. It has been my pleasure to have you here. If you find this conversation or conversations like this interesting, please like and subscribe to the podcast. You can find it on Apple under Fleeting Conversations. You can find it on Spotify under Fleeting Conversations. You can also find it on Amazon under, get this, Fleeting Conversations. And if you're looking for chassis, trailers, or reefers, give me a call. I want to lease you trailers. Have a great day. And I hit the button and it's all done. Ta-da! We did it.